This week on Motoworld, we're on location in AXTON, Virginia for outdoor motocross action. Hello, I'm Larry Myers and welcome to this special on-location edition of Motoworld. Due to our coverage of Daytona and Laguna Seca, you motocross fans out there have been neglected. Well, believe me, with this week's edition of Motoworld, we've more than made up for that. We've come to AXTON, Virginia, home of the first family of motocross, the Baileys. We're here for 125 and 250cc competition in the Baileys Lake Sugar Tree National Motocross event. Later, we'll visit with a professor of motocross, Gary Bailey, and former national champ, David Bailey. Welcome back to Motoworld. With me, a very special guest. We'll be talking with him in just a moment. Most of you motocross fans will recognize the gentleman sitting next to me. For those of you that don't, this is Gary Bailey, the professor of motocross. Gary, good to have you with us on Motoworld.
Thank you, Larry. It's really great to be here. Tell me, is there a Larry Myers character in this cartoon?
I wish there were. I could collect some royalties. Speaking of characters, though, you know, it's almost as if I'm sitting next to one. You would be Ben Cartwright, and this magnificent place is the Ponderosa.
Well, we put an awful lot of work into this place, and I tell you, it's really a great place to call home.
And it's also a great place for motocross. How about recapping the 125 action that took place here this weekend?
Well, thank you, Larry. I thought you'd never ask. I'd love to. In the first two events of the 125 National Championship Series, Suzuki's Eric Kehoe, number 9, and Honda's George Holland, number 3, each recorded 2 first and 2 second place moto finishes. At Lake Sugar Tree round 3, there was no reason to think that the results would not be the same. The competition, though, was not impressed by the lofty stats of the series' leading duo. In the first moto, Holland, number 3, was the early leader, but was pressured right from the start by Donnie Schmidt, number 16, Team Suzuki, and Guy Cooper, number 5, on a Honda. When Schmidt's bobbled, Cooper moved into second and set his heights on Holland. A few laps later, Cooper emerged as the leader. Behind him, Donnie Schmidt had control of second, while Holland slid into third. The trio of riders stayed in that order, and at the finish line, Cooper from Stillwater, Oklahoma, for the 3rd straight year, was first in moto number 1. If the first moto was good, then the second moto was great. Cooper was the early leader, followed closely by 971 Larry Ward. Ward, a first-year pro from Washington, showed the veteran Cooper absolutely no respect as he took over the number 1 spot still early in the moto. Rookies, though, are not supposed to lead a national. Cooper regained the lead and was quickly joined by Schmidt and Holland. Meanwhile, number 9, Eric Kehoe, on the prowl, the Suzuki rider who could only manage an 8th place finish in Moto 1, charged to the head of the pack and held on for the win. George Holland finished second, while Cooper settled for third, good enough for the overall honors.
And Gary, it was good enough for some special recognition. For his outstanding performance in his first race since suffering a severely broken leg, Guy Cooper is our Castrol Rider of the Week. For being named Castrol Rider of the Week, Cooper from Stillwater, Oklahoma, will receive a commemorative plaque and a custom embroidered racing jacket from Castrol.
The 125 riders may not always get the recognition they deserve, but one thing is for sure, they always put on a good show. And those same riders are going to do battle at Southwick, Massachusetts on May 22nd.
Thank you very much, Gary, for the good show that you put on this weekend and for all that you've given the sport of motocross. When we return, we'll take a closer look at Lake Sugar Tree and we'll visit with another pioneer of motocross. Welcome back to Motoworld. As we pointed out during our conversation with Gary Bailey, this Lake Sugar Tree motocross facility is one of the finest in the country. Let's take a closer look at this family-run facility. No, this is not a scene from Biloxi Blues or Heartbreak Ridge. There is a drill instructor. It's Gary Bailey, the professor of motocross. AXTON, you see, is also home for the world-famous Gary Bailey Motocross School. But once a year, the school lets out for recess and the pros invade David Bailey's Lake Sugar Tree Motocross Park. The 3rd annual AXTON National is an all-Bailey affair. During race day, you can see Darlene overseeing the credential and ticket line, while husband Gary oversees the minute-by-minute maintenance of the track. Former champ David Bailey also lends a hand in this area. Despite his debilitating injury, David continues to have a hands-on role in overseeing the event and the track conditions. His number 1 priority, though, is working his way through his injury.
I've been working harder and harder on my therapy, and I've had to take it down a little bit for the race, coming up here, and doing a lot of work to get it prepared. It looks like today we've got a great crowd and great conditions out there on the racetrack.
A family-oriented atmosphere was very much in evidence during the race weekend as thousands of fans took in the action at the fences, in the grandstands, or relaxing on the hills. In between races, the crowd was entertained by longtime wheelie master Doug DeMocas and his high wire act. The day before, amateurs had a chance to take on Lake Sugartree. Moms, pops, and kids all took part. Classes ranged from 6 to 60. Racing, wrenching, or spectating, a good time was had by all. One of the riders participating in the amateur program at Lake Sugartree was none other than Ivan Boyson, one of the true innovators of the sport of motocross. But for Ivan, amateur racing is much more than just trophy seeking.
Well, the reason I'm out there is to make sure that the new ideas and the new developments are working. Every time I go out, I try something different. There's a new setting, there's a new this, there's a new that, and to improve on our product and come up with new ones.
When Ivan Boyson talks about products, more times than not, he's referring to his power reed valves or his Boyson Link motocross suspension, both designed for maximum performance. Here in AXTON, Virginia, the Scandinavian-born engineer is displaying a different side of his slide rule engineer image. 46 years young, Boyson still feels he's the best equipped to evaluate his products, even though he may not be as fast as one of his prime product spokesmen, Bob Hurricane Hanna.
I have sensitivity, great sensitivity and feel so that I can tell the slightest little change. And a lot of guys can't do that. And for that reason, even though I'm slower than Bob, it will help Bob also.
Bob Hanna, as well as hundreds of other amateurs and pros, have benefited from this Norwegian immigrant's creative mind. Soon, members of the boat racing fraternity will also be introduced to the Boyson power products. But for right now, motocross is the immediate concern. And number 17 not only dominated the super senior division, but he probably fine-tuned his products just a little closer to perfection. Ivan Boyson, innovator, racer, and friend to anyone who ever donned a motocross helmet. Welcome back to Motoworld. Rick Johnson is with me here in AXTON, Virginia. We're just minutes from the start of the first 250 Moto. Rick, in addition to dominating Supercross, you've won 3 of the 4 outdoor national motos to date. Is this another string in the making?
Well, Larry, I hope it is. I feel really confident on my machine. Honda's done an excellent job in preparing my motorcycle. I think I can win here in AXTON.
Let's see if Rick Johnson's prediction held up. Johnson's closest competition figured to come from the Kawasaki camp. Former 250 champ Jeff Ward was only 4 points behind Johnson in the year's title chase, while Ron Lechine held down the number 3 spot in the standings. Given an outside chance of winning was Yamaha's multi-time national champ Brock Glover, who had spent most of the last 2 years sidelined with injuries. With that kind of talent, it's tough to pick a winner, and indeed the knowledgeable Lake Sugartree fans were divided. They did, however, agree on one thing: their favorite TV show. Now there's a winner in anyone's book. The early lead in Moto number 1 went to number 44, Brock Glover, who was followed closely by number 2, Jeff Ward. Rick Johnson fans had to look well back in the pack for their hero, as Johnson had suffered a rather dismal start. At this point, Ward's mission was clear: take the lead and put as much distance between himself and a charging Rick Johnson as he possibly could. And that's just what he did. The Mission Viejo, California native passed Glover and, with no traffic to contend with, quickly opened a huge lead over the rest of the field. Johnson, meanwhile, was cutting and slashing through traffic. The defending Lake Sugartree champ eventually moved into the runner-up position. Jeff Ward, though, had maintained the torrid pace set at the beginning of the moto. The Kawasaki rider took the checkered flag with a huge lead over Johnson and the rest of the pack. That set the stage for Moto number 2. If Ward could duplicate his first moto feat, he would not only earn overall honors for the day, but more importantly, would leave AXTON with a series points lead. The early lead went to number 24, Dennis Hawthorne. Hawthorne, though, was no match for Jeff Ward and his factory Kawasaki. Johnson, meanwhile, was close to the front of the pack and was letting it all hang out. Within a very few laps, the Honda rider was camped on Ward's rear wheel, and that's when the fun began. First, Johnson passed Ward. Then Ward passed Johnson. Then it was Johnson's turn to again pass Ward. Then Ward came around alone. For Johnson, the fun was over. The defending 250 national champ recorded a DNF in Moto number 2. Jeff Ward took the checkers and in all probability wrapped up the national crown.
Well, you know, it's a race. It's behind me now. I'm still upset about it, but there's nothing I can do. I'm going to go to win as much as I can, and if Jeff Ward has a problem, then it's in the cards for me to win the national championship. But if not, then there's always next year. But, you know, I don't feel he beat me.
Joining Ward on the victory rostrum was Yamaha's Brock Glover, who finished second overall. Third place went to Kawasaki's Ron Lachine. Here at Lake Sugar Tree, the motocross activities are over. The traditional post-race party, however, is in full swing. Jeff Ward's dual wins, coupled with Rick Johnson's DNF, gives Ward a virtual stranglehold on the series points. We'd like to thank all of the Motoworld cameramen that brought you these dynamite pictures. From all of us here at Motoworld, we'll see you next week. Keep your wheels on the ground and your feet on the pegs. I'm Larry Myers. Larry, it's awfully good having you on Motoworld.
Thank you, Larry. It's really great to be here. The question I want to know is there a Larry Myers? The question I want to know. Question I want to know. That's good. The question I want to know.
Gary, it's awfully good to have you on Motoworld.
Thank you, Larry, and it's really great to be here. Larry, is there really a
I got it right twice. Most of you motocross fans will recognize the gentleman sitting next to me. Most of you motocross fans will recognize the gentleman sitting next to me. For those of you that don't,
the executive producer of Motoworld is Lou Seals.
Well, there goes some more. Every summer these motorcycle racers come to AXTON, Virginia and stir up some excitement. Ed doesn't care much for the noise and all the people. I think it has something to do with the war injury. Personally, I like a little excitement now and then. It's the rest of the words. Personally, I like a little excitement now and then. But don't take my word for it. I forgot at that point again.
You can't start now. I got to get dressed every time you screw up.
Okay, I didn't know that. Man, but don't take my word for it. Come out July 11th and 12th and see for yourself. Right, Ed? We thank you. Because
putting the goggles on is too hard. I can't. That's a fumble. That'll just be
right, Ed? Ed doesn't care much for all the... Personally, I like a little excitement now and then. Damn it. Okay, ready, Dad? Am I ready? Come and join me July. And just figure if I get stung, hey, it's for the commercial. Ready? You've been going like that. Okay, we're dialed. You ready, Dad? Ready, Ed? Ed? Ready? Come to AXTON, Virginia and stir up some excitement.
I saw that coming to the beginning. I didn't even start taking my shirt.
Every summer these motorcycle riders come to... Wait. Ed doesn't care much for little noise and all the people. Personally, I like a little excitement myself, now and then. I think it has something to do with the war injury. Come out July 11th and 12th and see for yourself. Right, Ed? Well, there goes some more. Every summer these motorcycle racers come to AXTON, Virginia and stir up some excitement. Ed doesn't care much for little noise and all the people. I think it has something to do with the war injury. Personally, I like a little excitement now and then, but don't take my word for it. Come out July 11th and 12th and see for yourself. Right, Ed? Ed? We thank you for your support. And if you're not here, you can all take your bottles and James wine coolers